First of all, let's talk about the word gay. Gay, now we use the term, and I was interested that a group wasn't familiar with this term. This idea is I point to them and call them out on it. They didn't know what LGBT was. LGBT is kind of the catchphrase. We call it in the community the alphabet soup. Everyone wants to be identified for who they are and their differences, and so we essentially decided as a group, unofficially, to let everyone have their own identity. So we said, okay, we have the lesbians, we have the gays, we have the bisexuals, and we have the transgenders. So L is for lesbian, G is for gay, B is for bi, and T is for transgenders. Whenever you see LGBT, it's the equivalent of saying gay. And this was actually an invention of the 70s, and that's kind of a side note to introduce you to the issue of gays and some of the terminology. Now, there's a huge debate raging across the country for and against gay marriage, people who are seeking equality. And recently, in the New York Senate, on June 24th, just this past June 24th, there was a vote for the third time in about a year and a half on the issue of gay marriage in the state of New York. And like the other votes, there were basically as many for as against. There were 31 for, 31 against. Someone had to change their vote in order for the law to pass. Mark Grisanti, a Republican senator from Buffalo, a conservative Republican for senator, who last November ran in part on a platform against gay marriage. He was going to be the deciding vote. And he gave a speech on the floor of the Senate, June 24th, 2011, and he addressed his speech to the Speaker of the President of the Senate. It's, you know, how they formally do it. And this is what he said in his speech, and it's very moving. As a Catholic, I was raised to believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I'm not here, however, as a senator who is just Catholic. I'm also here with a background as an attorney through which I look at things and apply reason. I know that many people who voted for me will question my integrity only a short time ago. I tell you, though, that I have studied this issue, and those who know me know that I have struggled with it. To those whose support I may lose, please note that in the past, what I was telling you and what I believed at that time was to be the right thing to me what I was telling you and what I believed at that time was true. But by doing the research and ultimately doing what I believe to be right, to me shows integrity. I would not respect myself if I did not do the research, have an open mind, and make a decision, an informed decision, based on the information before me. A man can be wiser today than yesterday, but there will be no respect for that man if he has failed in his duty to do the work. I cannot legally come up with an argument against same-sex marriage. Who am I to say that someone should not have the same rights that I have with my wife, who I love, or to have the 1,300 plus rights that I share with her? I believe this state needs to provide equal rights and protections to its residents. I struggled with the word marriage as between a man and a woman. That's how I was raised. But I also struggle with the rights that are lacking for same-sex couples, and I have stated this numerous times. I cannot deny that right or an opportunity for someone, nor stand in the way of allowing them to obtain the rights that I have. For me, the issue boils down to this. I've done the research, and my belief that a person can be wiser today than yesterday when you do the work. I cannot deny a person, a human being, a taxpayer, a worker, the people of my district, and the people across the state of New York the same rights that I have with my wife. Therefore, I vote in the affirmative. That vote made the difference for the LGBT population in New York. It granted them the same state recognition as their heterosexual counterparts. Now, as I've researched this topic, I looked extensively at the opposing view to this issue. What are the reasons that people who are against gay marriage are against gay marriage? Originally, I was going to come in and just read the 5 reasons to you, but I thought it'd be more interesting to ask you guys. Tell me, what are the reasons that people oppose gay marriage?
It's because how they've been culturized about marriage, what they feel marriage is.
Okay. What else?
I've heard that people are afraid they'll be allowed in their churches and temples and that kind of thing.
Be forced to be allowed
Yeah.
in. What else?
People think homosexual people are pedophiles.
Pedophilia. Yes, that's a common one. That it's a sexual perversion. Okay. What else? No one's going to bring up Leviticus.
I don't know. I just think I took a class on LGBT whateverness a few semesters ago. I just think it's overall like uncomfortable for people because it doesn't fit within their like the socially constructed binary of a man being with a woman. Like a man being with a man is uncomfortable, and I just think I'm more uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, and I've dated him, and it is uncomfortable. Yeah, and the one that I mentioned besides that, besides the common social mores, what we've been taught to believe, this fear that homosexuality will then be forced on the religious adherents. The other one is religion, morality. You know, the Bible, in the Old Testament, there's a few passages, specifically in Leviticus, that say that it is a sin for a man to lie with another man. And so those are the primary reasons that people are against it. Now, to me, and the research that I did, and from my personal perspective, none of those reasons are reasonable enough to go beyond a personal objection to gay marriage. And we have to understand that as a society, we have the right, as a free society, we have the right to personally object to anything we want. I object to heterosexuality. I don't want it. It is not for me. But my personal objection to your biological reality is not something that I seek to legislate against. It's not something that I seek to fight against. When we go home today, we're all going to go to our families. Some of us are married in this room. Some of us, you know, are dating. We have a cute couple right here. Maybe we'll end up in marriage. But when you go home, look at your spouse. Look at your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Look at your kids. Think about your grandparents, your parents, and think about the relationship you have with them. Because one of the biggest misconceptions about homosexuality is that it is about sex. I am not a gay man because I want to have sex with men. I'm a gay man because I want to have a loving relationship, a personal relationship with a man. So when you go home and you think about your relationships with your loved ones, understand that the relationship you have with the people you care about is exactly the same as the relationship I want to have with the people I care about. And don't let, like so many people do, your personal objections to homosexuality interfere with allowing homosexuals the exact same access to rights, marriage and otherwise, as you have.
heard that LBGT, is there a Q?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
LGBT, the actual, to confuse you, LGBTIQQA. And after today, you're all A's, except, well, I don't want to make any assumptions about your orientation, but lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, questioning, and allies. So that's the entire alphabet soup, but it's often shortened to LGBT. So the intersex people, and intersex are people who are born with a gender variant, meaning they, there are people who are born with a medical condition where their genitalia isn't as easily identifiable as someone who's born with what would be considered traditional genitalia. So.
Last night in my film class we had a presentation on the lesbian gay lifestyle, and they handed out this flyer, and on it has the heterosexual questionnaire, and it has 18 questions, and it asks questions that heterosexuals would ask homosexuals, but switched it around, and so it's pretty interesting to read it.
Can we hear one or two?
Yeah. What do you think caused your heterosexuality? If you have never slept with a person of the same sex, is it possible that you all need a good gay lover? A disproportionate majority of child molesters are heterosexual. Do you consider it safe to expose your children to heterosexual teachers?
There's some interesting things in there. Yeah, I mean, because that's, you brought up pedophilia. That's a common misconception, is that homosexual men in particular are pedophiles, but the reality is statistically over 80% of pedophiles are straight men and taking advantage of girls.
Exactly, it's 95%.
Yeah, right. It's a significant disproportionate, value. And the idea of, when did you choose to be straight? Those are some interesting ideas. Anyway, I don't want to take up everybody's time, but it's an I'll talk about it all day.
One of the things, I like how you finished up with like your orientation and stuff, and I just think all too often homosexuals are identified by their sexual preference and not by like who they are, and I don't think that's very fair. So.
Anything else? Awesome.